Did you know that something as ordinary as cheese, something sitting quietly in your fridge right now, could be silently increasing your risk of stroke, especially at night, without a single warning sign? It sounds dramatic, but it's true. If you're over 60, your blood vessels don't bounce back the way they used to. They've seen years of work, pressure, and change. And while we often focus on sugar, fried foods, or smoking, there's one sneaky category we tend to overlook: the cheese we eat. Now, I'm not here to tell you to give up cheese. That would be cruel, right? But I am here to tell you this: not all cheeses are created equal. Some are quietly doing damage. Others? They're surprisingly protective. It's not about cutting out comfort food. It's about making one small, smart shift in the kind of cheese you reach for. Because the truth is, certain cheeses, especially the ones we grew up loving, can stiffen arteries, spike blood pressure, and even trigger silent strokes during the night, while your body rests, unaware. But the good news? There are 4 gentle, brain-loving cheeses that can actually help you feel sharper, move better, and protect your heart, all while satisfying your taste buds. And I'm going to walk you through both lists, the ones to avoid and the ones to embrace, backed by science, and built for the stage of life you're in now. So before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever had that feeling where your favorite food turns out to be not so good for you? It's frustrating, it's disappointing, but it's also fixable. Hit that subscribe button right now if you want more clear, science-backed advice made especially for people over 60. This isn't about guilt, it's about control. Control over your brain, your blood pressure, and your future. Because instead of feeling like you have to give up everything you enjoy, what if you just had to switch to something better? Let's begin. As we age, our bodies go through changes we can't always see, but they matter more than ever. One of the biggest? The flexibility of our blood vessels. In our younger years, arteries expand and contract with ease, like soft rubber. But after 60, those same vessels can become stiff, less responsive, and slower to adapt to sudden changes in pressure. Why does that matter? Because when your arteries lose their bounce, anything that pushes your blood pressure higher, like sodium, saturated fat, or certain chemicals, can hit harder and faster. The body doesn't have the same buffer it once did. And this is where cheese quietly enters the picture. See, most people think of cheese as a dairy product. But depending on the type, it can also be a concentrated source of salt, saturated fat, and in some cases, even additives that promote inflammation. The issue isn't cheese itself, it's the kind of cheese. It's what's inside, and how often we eat it, especially late in the day. For someone over 60, a slice or two of the wrong cheese before bed might seem harmless. But add up the sodium, the fat, the vessel stiffness, and suddenly your blood pressure could spike while you're asleep, when you're least likely to notice. That's one reason strokes often happen at night or early in the morning. So instead of assuming cheese is safe just because it's familiar, it's time to look closer. Because a simple swap, a smarter cheese, eaten mindfully, can mean the difference between inflaming your vessels or protecting them. Between a foggy morning and a focused one, you still get to enjoy the foods you love. You just learn how to love the right ones. Let's look at the 4 cheeses that may be quietly putting your health at risk, and what to reach for instead. Let's start with the one that shows up in nearly every American fridge: processed cheese. You know the kind: individually wrapped yellow slices, ready to melt onto a burger or sandwich in seconds. It's quick, it's convenient, and for many of us, it's been a comfort food for decades. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Processed cheese isn't real cheese. It's a blend, a mix of milk, whey, food coloring, emulsifiers, and salt. And when I say salt, I mean a lot of it. One single slice can have over 300 milligrams of sodium. Stack 2 or 3 on a sandwich, and you've already consumed nearly half your ideal daily limit, before dinner is even over. Now think about this from the perspective of someone over 60. As your blood vessels stiffen with age, they don't handle pressure swings like they used to. So when sodium enters the picture in high amounts, blood pressure rises, and arteries work overtime to keep up. It doesn't always show right away, but that late-night snack with melted cheese on toast? It could quietly raise your risk of a nighttime blood pressure spike. And that's when silent strokes happen, when you're asleep, unaware, with no warning signs. A study published in the journal Hypertension found that older adults with diets high in sodium and saturated fat had a 35% higher risk of silent stroke. That means damage to the brain that builds over time, affecting memory, focus, and balance. And the issue isn't just salt. Processed cheese also contains saturated fats and synthetic compounds that contribute to inflammation inside the arteries. Over time, these compounds can narrow blood flow, harden the vessel walls, and put strain on the heart. Instead of fueling your body, it's slowly wearing it down. But here's the good news. You don't have to give up cheese on sandwiches. You just have to choose a cheese that respects your body. One that supports your brain and blood pressure rather than pushing them to the edge. We'll talk about those options shortly. But first, let's look at the next risky cheese on the list, one known for its bold flavor and complex personality. Now, let's talk about a cheese that people tend to either love or avoid entirely. Blue cheese. It's tangy. It's bold. It's often paired with crackers or crumbled onto salads. And for many, it feels like a more grown-up choice. Something a little more sophisticated. But if you're over 60, blue cheese might come with a hidden cost you didn't expect. What makes blue cheese unique is also what makes it risky. That sharp flavor? It comes from special mold cultures, specifically Penicillium roqueforti, which give it those signature blue veins. But along with the mold comes a compound called tyramine. Tyramine is naturally found in aged foods, and while it's harmless to many, it can be dangerous for people with sensitive blood vessels or those on certain medications like MIO inhibitors. Why? Because tyramine can cause sudden spikes in blood pressure. And when your arteries are already stiffer, narrower, or inflamed, as they often are after 60, those spikes can be serious. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Hypertension found that individuals over 60 who consumed high tyramine diets were significantly more likely to experience sudden blood pressure surges, sometimes within hours of eating. That's not just uncomfortable. It's potentially life-threatening. It can lead to what doctors call a hypertensive crisis, a medical emergency that can result in stroke or heart attack if left untreated. And there's more. Blue cheese, while less processed than some others, is still high in saturated fat. That means it can raise LDL cholesterol and contribute to arterial plaque, especially if it's eaten regularly or combined with other fatty foods. Instead of giving your brain the oxygen-rich blood it needs, you're slowly tightening the pipeline. Does that mean you can never enjoy it again? Not necessarily. But it does mean moderation matters. If you're noticing your blood pressure creeping up, if you're taking medications, or if you simply want to protect your heart and brain, then maybe it's time to rethink what goes on your salad. Because while blue cheese may add flavor, it could also be adding risk. And there are other cheeses that offer richness, without the vascular roller coaster. Let's move on to one that's smooth, creamy, and perhaps even more common in American breakfasts. Let's talk about one of the most familiar breakfast spreads in America: cream cheese. It's soft, it's rich, it melts perfectly into a warm bagel or piece of toast. For millions of people, it's part of the morning ritual. But if you're over 60 and reaching for cream cheese each morning, it might be time to pause and take a closer look. Cream cheese is often seen as harmless. After all, it's not bright orange or heavily processed. It's mild, smooth, and comforting. But here's what many people don't realize. Cream cheese is mostly fat. Not the kind your heart loves, the kind that quietly raises LDL cholesterol and crowds your arteries over time. Just 2 tablespoons, that's about what you'd spread on half a bagel, can contain over 9 grams of fat. Most of it saturated. And unlike other cheeses, cream cheese offers very little protein or calcium to balance it out. So, what does that mean for someone over 60? It means you're starting your day with a high-fat food that spikes your cholesterol without giving you the nutrients that support strong muscles or flexible blood vessels. Even worse, cream cheese is often paired with refined carbohydrates like white bread or plain bagels. That combination, high fat and fast carbs, causes a blood sugar spike, followed by a crash. Ever feel foggy-headed, dizzy or sleepy mid-morning, even after a full night's rest? It might not be poor sleep. It might be breakfast. Instead of fueling your body, cream cheese can set off a chain reaction. High LDL, unstable blood sugar, and sluggish circulation to the brain. Over time, that adds up. Memory slips, low energy, slow reflexes, things we often blame on aging, but could be traced back to what's on our plate. So, here's the good news. You don't have to give up creamy spreads altogether. Try swapping in whipped cottage cheese or herbed ricotta. You'll still get that rich, satisfying texture, but with more protein, less fat, and nutrients that actually support your brain and blood flow. Because instead of starting your day with something that slows you down, why not choose something that lifts you up? Now, let's talk about a cheese that many of us grew up with. The one that melts perfectly on burgers, grilled sandwiches, even scrambled eggs. American cheese. It's bright. It's smooth. It's familiar. And for many, it's the taste of childhood comfort food. But here's the uncomfortable truth. American cheese isn't really cheese. Not in the traditional sense. It's what the FDA classifies as a processed cheese product. That means it's made from milk, whey, food colorings, emulsifiers, preservatives, and just enough actual cheese to legally call it cheese. It's engineered to taste creamy, melt easily, and last longer on the shelf. But nutritionally, it's far from ideal, especially if you're over 60. Let's break it down. A single slice can contain up to 400 milligrams of sodium and nearly 5 grams of saturated fat. And that's just one slice. Stack 2 on a sandwich, and you've added a serious load of salt and fat to your meal, without much nutritional return. But it's not just about the fat and salt. What's even more concerning are the synthetic additives. Things like phosphates and emulsifiers. designed to improve texture and shelf life. These additives may sound harmless, but studies show they can increase inflammation in your blood vessels. And over time, that inflammation weakens the arterial walls, raising your risk for stroke, cognitive decline, and other vascular complications. Instead of feeding your brain, you may be feeding low-grade chronic damage to your circulatory system. A review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people who ate more processed cheeses had a significantly higher risk of cardiovascular disease compared to those who chose natural cheeses. It's not just what cheese looks like, it's how it behaves in your body. So if you're using American cheese daily, especially in quick meals, it might be time to reconsider. You don't have to stop enjoying creamy, melty flavor, but instead of reaching for slices wrapped in plastic, why not try fresh mozzarella or even goat cheese? They melt, they satisfy, and they support your blood vessels instead of stressing them. Your taste buds won't suffer, but your heart and brain will thank you. Let's shift gears now and talk about the cheeses that actually protect your health, okay? So now we know the risks. We've looked at 4 cheeses that, while familiar and comforting, may be quietly working against your health after 60. But here's the part that often gets missed. Cheese doesn't have to be the enemy. It can actually be your ally, if you choose the right kind. Not every cheese is loaded with sodium or harmful fats. Some are naturally lower in salt. Some provide high-quality protein. Others even offer brain-boosting fats and beneficial bacteria that support both your digestion and your circulation. And here's what makes this even more encouraging. You don't have to stop enjoying cheese. You just have to shift what you're putting in your cart and onto your plate. Because instead of feeding inflammation and blood pressure spikes, you could be supporting muscle strength, balanced energy, sharper thinking, and calmer arteries. It's a small change, but a meaningful one. So let's move from the problem to the solution, from risk to reward, from cheese that takes to cheese that gives. What follows are 4 kinds of cheese that offer real benefits, backed by science, rich in flavor, and perfectly suited for the 60-plus body and brain. They're not just better for you, they're good to you. Let's start with one that's creamy, light, and often underestimated. Let's begin with a cheese that's often overlooked, but quietly powerful. Ricotta. It's soft, it's mild, it blends beautifully into both sweet and savory dishes. But behind its gentle flavor is something that can truly support your health after 60. Unlike many cheeses, ricotta is made from whey, the liquid left over during the cheese-making process. That's important, because whey is packed with high-quality, easily absorbed protein. Why does that matter? Because as we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. It becomes harder to stay steady, strong, and active. But adding the right protein can slow that process down. It can help maintain balance, support movement, and even reduce your risk of falls. A study published in Clinical Interventions in Aging found that just 210 grams of ricotta per day significantly improved lower limb strength, balance, and muscle mass in older adults, even those without major muscle loss to begin with. That's not from supplements. That's just from eating the right cheese. And that's not all. Ricotta is naturally low in sodium, often under 50 milligrams per serving, making it one of the most heart-friendly options available. It also delivers a healthy dose of calcium, which plays a key role in muscle contraction and blood vessel function. So instead of spiking your pressure and leaving your body empty, ricotta offers support for your bones, for your muscles, for the vessels that feed your brain. Try it on whole grain toast with herbs. Stir it into scrambled eggs, or mix it with lemon juice and garlic for a savory dip. You don't have to give up creamy foods. You just have to trade up. Because instead of something that takes from your body, you're choosing something that gives it back. Next, let's look at a cheese that's just as mild, but even higher in protein. Next up is a cheese you may have passed by in the dairy aisle without a second thought. Cottage cheese. Doesn't have a bold flavor. It's not fancy, but it just might be one of the most nutritious choices you can make, especially after 60. Why? Because cottage cheese is loaded with casein, a slow-digesting protein that keeps you fuller, longer. It helps stabilize blood sugar and prevents those midday crashes that can leave you feeling tired, foggy, or unfocused. And when your blood sugar stays steady, so does your blood pressure. Your circulation works more smoothly, and your brain gets a more consistent supply of oxygen and nutrients. That's not all. A single cup of low-fat cottage cheese can provide around 28 grams of protein, with very little fat, and if you choose the right version, minimal sodium. But what truly sets it apart are the micronutrients. Cottage cheese is rich in vitamin B12, essential for nerve health and memory, and selenium, a powerful antioxidant that protects your blood vessels from damage. In fact, a large study in the U.S. found that older adults with moderate selenium intake had a 16% lower risk of heart disease. And recent findings suggest selenium also plays a role in protecting cognitive function, especially in people with high blood pressure. So instead of spreading cream cheese with empty calories, why not spoon some cottage cheese into a bowl of berries and flaxseed? You'll get protein, antioxidants, and fiber, all in one meal. Or mix it with cucumber and olive oil for a light, savory snack that supports your heart and your brain. Because when you eat something simple and nourishing, you're not just filling your stomach, you're fueling your future. Let's move on to a cheese that's just as creamy, but even easier on digestion. Now, let's talk about a cheese that's creamy, tangy, and surprisingly gentle on your body. Goat cheese. If you've never tried it, this might be the perfect time. Because goat cheese offers something unique. It's not just easy to digest. It actually helps energize your brain. First, digestion. As we get older, many of us develop sensitivities to lactose, the natural sugar found in cow's milk. Goat cheese contains significantly less lactose, making it easier for your body to handle. That means less bloating, less discomfort, and better absorption of nutrients. But here's what really makes goat cheese stand out. It contains medium-chain triglycerides, or MCTs. These are special fats that your body doesn't store the same way it stores other fats. Instead, it quickly converts them into energy, especially for your brain. In one study published in Frontiers in Nutrition, older adults who consumed MCTs showed improvements in working memory and attention. And in another 9-month study on people with mild cognitive decline, 80% maintained or improved their mental function with regular MCT use. Imagine eating something delicious while also sharpening your focus and supporting your brain's long-term health. That's what goat cheese offers. It also provides bioavailable calcium and phosphorus, key nutrients for maintaining strong bones and keeping blood vessels flexible. Plus, goat cheese contains oligosaccharides. natural prebiotics that feed the good bacteria in your gut. And we now know that a healthy gut plays a huge role in reducing inflammation, especially the kind that affects the brain and arteries. So instead of grabbing something that weighs you down, why not try a creamy slice of goat cheese on whole grain toast? It satisfies like cream cheese, but it supports your brain, your belly, and your blood flow, all at once. Let's finish with one more cheese that's soft, fresh, and packed with surprising heart benefits. Finally, let's talk about one of the gentlest cheeses you can choose: fresh mozzarella. Not the shredded kind in a plastic bag. I'm talking about the soft, white rounds you find packed in water. They're mild, smooth, and incredibly satisfying. But what makes them truly special isn't just the taste. It's what they do for your body, especially after 60. Fresh mozzarella is naturally low in sodium, often under 200 milligrams per ounce. That's a big deal when you're watching your blood pressure, because every little bit of sodium reduction helps. And when your pressure stays steady, your risk of stroke, especially those silent overnight ones, goes down. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Fresh mozzarella contains probiotics, friendly bacteria that support your gut health. Now, you might be wondering, what does my gut have to do with my heart or brain? The answer is more than you think. A 2023 study in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine found that older adults with more diverse gut bacteria had better artery flexibility, lower levels of inflammation, and improved blood flow. That means less stiffness, better circulation, and a lower chance of clots or vessel damage. Other research shows probiotics help reduce LDL cholesterol and increase nitric oxide, a molecule that keeps your blood vessels relaxed and open. In short, eating probiotic-rich foods like fresh mozzarella can help calm the inflammation that quietly damages your heart and brain over time. Instead of causing pressure, it helps relieve it. And the best part? You can enjoy it in so many simple, satisfying ways. Try slicing fresh mozzarella with ripe tomatoes, a drizzle of olive oil, and fresh basil. You've got yourself a caprese salad, a heart-smart dish that's as easy as it is elegant. So rather than starting with stress, start with softness. Start with something that supports your entire system, without sacrificing flavor. Coming up, let's quickly recap everything you've learned and help you make your next cheese choice, your smartest one yet. So, let's pull it all together. You've now seen both sides of the cheese aisle. On one side, the familiar comfort foods, sliced, spreadable, sharp, and salty. On the other, a group of quieter cheeses that nourish your body instead of stressing it. Let's recap. The 4 cheeses to be cautious with. Processed cheese, convenient but loaded with sodium and emulsifiers. Blue cheese, flavorful but high in tyramine and saturated fat. Cream cheese, soft and rich, but low in nutrients and high in bad fats. American cheese melts beautifully, but filled with additives that promote inflammation. And then, the ones that work with your body. Ricotta, high in whey protein, low in salt, great for muscles and blood pressure. Cottage cheese, packed with casein, B12, selenium, and stabilizing for blood sugar. Goat cheese, easier to digest, rich in MCTs, fuels the brain and soothes the gut. Fresh mozzarella, low sodium, full of probiotics, and supports vascular health. The choice is yours. You don't have to quit cheese. You don't have to give up flavor, tradition, or comfort. But what you can do is choose differently. Because instead of that late-night snack that quietly increases your stroke risk, you could be reaching for something that supports your circulation, strengthens your memory, and helps you wake up clear and steady. It's not about restriction, it's about protection. And that's a powerful shift. So, I'd love to know, which cheese are you most curious to try now? Drop it in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe. Because every choice we make after 60 matters just a little more. And every bite, every habit, every swap can lead to a longer, sharper, steadier life. Thanks for watching. We're in this together.